can just edit. I could put it in. Yeah.
You could show that. I mean, you can go up to show part of that hallway if you want.
Asterisms is known for having their the tours, collectors tours.
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, what impact does that have on individuals that come through your home? I mean, what kind of experiences have people had?
Wow.
What you say?
Diaspora Rhythms, we began our home collectors tours. We began our home collectors tours, I guess, over approximately 6 years ago, and where members of our collectors group, every October in Chicago, our mayor and our city designated October Artist Month. And so when Patrick found out about Artist Month, he wanted to make sure that somehow African Americans and people of the diaspora were included in celebrating artists that month in Chicago. And so in some of the work that he and Dan did with the city, we established our collectors tour as part of that October celebration here in Chicago to celebrate and anoint artists of the culture. And so we have been sponsoring what we call collectors home tours, and members of our group open up our homes to Chicago. And people travel to our homes on trolley buses, and actually they come in and we actually give them a walking tour of how we live with and love art. And I will say to you that some of the comments that have been left with me when people walk out of my home is just amazing to me. The warmth and the peace that they feel. And so we firmly believe that artists' lives have been changed because of the home tour, because it's definitely a way for people to come and have an opportunity to see the work of artists, especially from this community and even beyond. Even when you look at people have come in my home and they may see that Najee plate that you may have noticed in the video earlier, and they'll want to know, my God, who's that artist? You know, where can I get a piece of that art? So we know that we have been able to introduce our community of artists that we love and support to the collective city of art lovers in Chicago. We know that people do come and then they say, you know what, I may not be surrounded by as much art as this, but I do believe now that I need art to be a part of who I am. I want art to reflect the home that I live in. And we do believe many collectors have started and began their collections because of their experiences on touring the collection of homes that are part of our group. And people have fallen in love with the work of certain artists. When you look at my dial wall, people have come in here and they've said, oh my God, where'd you get that? When did Dial do that? Oh my God, those pieces are awesome. We've never seen that body of his work. And many of the pieces that I have in my Dial collection were part of his beginning journey here in Chicago as an artist, where he began to initially expose his work to the Chicago community at large. And I began to collect that work, and so people are able to see the beginning of his career as an artist here in Chicago and how he's truly grown and been anointed in his creativity also as an artist. And so, I think for sure the Collectors Tours have been very significant in sharing with people our love for living with art, and definitely inspiring many people to be able to walk away and say, you know what, I'm going to invest in art.
Yeah. So when you go to other homes of collectors, I mean, what artists have you been introduced by seeing their collections that you felt that you said, oh, I got to go investigate more about this?
Oh no, that's a very good question, and you know what, it would be like, wow, it's hard to say, but I will tell you that when I first entered Dan's home and when I entered
Dan Parker,
and God, I was just in awe. I mean, I was in awe with just the living space. I was in awe with being introduced to artists that necessarily may not have been from Chicago, but may have been still current contemporary artists in this generation. When I looked at some of the impact of the work of collectors that they had, I remember that Patrick and Dan definitely introduced me to Dalton Brown and Dale Washington. Mm-hmm. When I started collecting, I went to their homes and they just had this wonderful introduction of Dale and wonderful pieces from Dalton Brown, and I began to say, ooh, you know what, I need to learn a little bit more about their work. And relationships were established with those two artists, and now I can proudly say that from seeing their work in those two homes, it definitely made me want to come out and say, you know what, oh yeah, I think when you visit the home of collector time after time, day after day, their homes are always intriguing. There's always something different. There's always something that you think you've studied everything, and then you find this new artist, or you find a piece that may have been in place for many years, and you just say, wow, okay, now I can really appreciate who they are. I think I went to Dan's house and I saw Fahim for the first time. And I just said, oh God, you know what? There's just something about Fahim Majid and his sculptures that just make you want to just have one. There's something about Fahim that makes you just respect his talent. And so I think after seeing Fahim's work, I said, you know what, I need to own a Fahim Majid.
Yeah.
And that begins the journey.
At what point, because I meet a number of people that's interested in collecting art, but when they come into a home like this where there's art everywhere, they just, feel intimidated. And, I mean, at what point did you get to where you felt comfortable, stacking your art and just having it, all over the wall? Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you get to that point?
That's a great question, because I tell people when you begin to collect, it's just important that you buy what you love. And then I think what happens when you develop this passion for what it is you love, and don't know this, that there's still some pieces that are in my collection that I have no space to hang. And so, as a collector, we do believe in having to recycle pieces. But I think I can remember the day that I had just one piece, that first Ernie Barnes, and then I look in my home today and I'm like, wow. It appears that every space is filled if I could find something to fit in every corner. And I guess it just began to happen because of my love and my passion for what I love just continues to grow. I tell people often that, I could just purchase a piece of art every day, and I could travel this country and be connected to an artist and his or her art that I truly love and would not hesitate to want to bring to my home and find a place for it to hang. And so I think as you get into connecting with the art, some people can do it and just have one piece here and one in lots of space, that whole gallery look. And then there's some of us, many of us, especially who are members of Diaspora Rhythms, we just, we find a great sense of peace in being just surrounded by art. And so it's just something that, it just happened. I didn't plan it. It may not be aesthetically pleasing to everybody that enters, but I'll tell you there's a warmth and a peace that I feel every day that I enter my home, and that's so important to me.